Chapter 9: Human Consciousness. When we turn to the consideration of the band of color which represents humanity, we at once note several quite new features. In this case, the band retains its full width not only through the whole of the physical plane, but also through the whole of the astral, showing that a man is capable of all varieties of desire to the fullest possible extent, the highest as well as the lowest. It also exhibits the full width in the lowest level of the mental plane, indicating that as far as that level is concerned, man's reasoning faculty is fully developed. Higher than that, however, the development is not yet full, but an entirely new factor is introduced in the presence of the dark blue triangle on the higher mental plane, indicating the possession by the man of a causal body and a permanent reincarnating ego. This blue triangle corresponds to the other triangle in the circle which is seen in Plate 3. In the case of the great majority of mankind, the point which indicates consciousness of any sort upon the higher mental levels does not rise beyond the third or lowest of them. It is only very gradually, as his development progresses, that the ego is able to raise his consciousness to the second or the first of these subplanes. It is not, of course, implied that the man can function consciously at these heights as yet. In the lower types of men, desire is still emphatically the most prominent feature, though the mental development has also proceeded to some extent. Such a man during life would have a dim consciousness in his astral body while asleep, and after death he would be very fully conscious and active on the lower astral subplanes. In fact, that lower astral life would probably form nearly the whole of the interval between his incarnations, for as yet he would have practically nothing of the life of the heaven world. The consciousness of the man at this level is undoubtedly centered in quite the lower part of the astral body, and his life is principally governed by sensations connected with the physical plane. The ordinary man of our own race is still living almost entirely in his sensations, although the higher astral is coming into play. But still for him the prominent question which guides his conduct is not in the least what is right or reasonable to do, but simply what he himself desires to do. The more cultured and developed among us are beginning to govern desire by reason, that is to say, the center of consciousness is gradually transferring itself from the higher astral to the lower mental. Slowly as the man progresses, it moves up further still, and the man begins to be dominated by principle rather than by interest and desire. To be able to use these different bodies as definite vehicles in which the soul can consciously function is another and still greater development. Any fairly advanced and cultured man among the higher races of mankind has already consciousness fully developed in the astral body, and is perfectly capable of employing it as a vehicle if he were only in the habit of doing so. But to do this a definite effort would be necessary. The enormous majority of these men know nothing at all about the astral body or its uses, and so naturally make no effort of any kind. They have behind them the tradition of the immemorial custom of a long series of lives in which the astral faculties have not been used, for these faculties have been gradually and slowly growing inside a shell, something as a chicken grows inside the egg. The shell is composed of the great mass of self-centered thought in which the ordinary man is so hopelessly entombed. Whatever may have been the thoughts chiefly engaging his mind during the day, he usually continues them when falling asleep, and is thus surrounded by so dense a wall of his own making that he practically knows nothing of what is going on outside. Occasionally, but very rarely, some violent impact from without, or some strong desire of his own from within, may tear aside this curtain of mist for the moment and permit him to receive some definite impression. But even then the fog closes in again almost immediately, and he dreams on unobservantly as before. It is obvious that this shell may be broken in various ways. First, in the far distant future, the slow but sure evolution of the man will undoubtedly gradually dissipate the curtain of mist, so that he will become conscious by degrees of the mighty world of intensely active life which surrounds him. Secondly, the man himself, having learnt the facts of the case, may by steady and persistent effort from within clear away the mist, and gradually overcome the inertia resulting from ages of inactivity. This is, of course, merely the hastening of the natural process, and will be in no way harmful if the man's development is proceeding with equal rapidity along other lines. But if he should gain this awakening without having attained at the same time the strength, knowledge, and moral development which would naturally have preceded it, he would be liable to the double danger of misusing such powers as he might acquire, and of being overwhelmed by fear in the presence of forces which he could neither understand nor control. Thirdly, it may happen that some accident, or some unlawful use of magical ceremonies, may so rend the veil that it may never be wholly closed. And then the man is left in the terrible condition so well described by Madame Blavatsky in her story of A Bewitched Life, or by Bulwer Lytton in his powerful novel Zanoni. Fourthly, some friend who knows the man thoroughly, and believes him capable of facing the dangers of the astral plane and doing good unselfish work there, may act upon this cloud shell from without and rouse the man to definite action. This is the awakening to which reference is made in our books, and naturally the man who does this undertakes a very serious responsibility towards the man whom he thus arouses. The elder worker assumes this responsibility only when by long and intimate acquaintance he has become reasonably certain that the younger possesses in some measure all the qualifications mentioned in Chapter 14 of Invisible Helpers, but the need of helpers is so great that every aspirant may be absolutely certain that there will not be a day's delay in arousing him as soon as he is seen to be ready. Meantime, any who feel themselves overlooked have always the resource of adopting the second method to which I referred above. But before doing so they would be well advised to assure themselves absolutely and beyond any possibility of doubt that they possess the requisite development along other lines, as otherwise their fall will be speedy and certain. But, as has been explained in the books, a great deal of work may be done, and constantly is done, short of this full awakening. A man who falls asleep with a definite intention in his mind of doing a certain piece of work will assuredly go and attempt to carry out his intention as soon as he is freed from his physical body. But having done his best in connection with that particular case, he is almost certain to let the fog close round him once more, simply because of the fact that he has for ages been unaccustomed to initiate a fresh line of action when functioning apart from the physical brain. Many of our members make a practice of thus ensuring that they may perform at least one helpful action each night, and of course in many cases the action is such as to occupy the whole of the time spent in sleep, so that they are practically exerting themselves to the fullest extent possible for them. We should also remember that it is by no means only during sleep that we can give effective help. The strong living thought can be sent out at any moment, and can never fail in producing its effect. But the difference between the one who has been definitely awakened and the one who has not, is that in the case of the former the curtain of mist has been forever dissipated, while in the latter it merely opens for the time and then shuts down as impenetrably as before.